highway had a way of erasing people. By midnight, Route 117 was nothing more than a long scar through desert scrub and low hills, cutting towns apart and leaving miles of nothing in between. No lights, no homes, no reason to stop, except hunger. Ethan Cole parked his mobile restaurant on the gravel shoulder just past mile marker 62, exactly where he always did. The spot was familiar, predictable. Truckers slowed there. Night workers stopped there. Sometimes no one came at all. That was fine with him. The food truck, an old step van converted into a kitchen, rattled as the generator kicked in. A single bulb flickered to life above the service window, casting a pale circle onto the ground. Outside that circle, the night remained absolute. Ethan rolled up his sleeves and went through the motions, checking oil, wiping down steel surfaces, lining up ingredients. The smells of grease and onions filled the air, warm and grounding. This was his rhythm. This was control. He worked nights because nights were quiet. He would learn that quiet was not the same as safe. By 12:30 a.m., no vehicles had passed. That wasn't unusual, but something felt off. The air sat too still, like it had been sealed. Crickets that normally chirped nonstop had gone silent. Even the wind had paused. Ethan noticed it when he stepped outside the truck to stretch. The darkness beyond the bulb didn't feel empty. It felt occupied. He told himself it was fatigue. Too many late nights, not enough sleep. He leaned against the truck and took a sip of coffee. That's when the smell reached him. Not garbage, not rot. Something animal. Damp, musky, alive. Ethan frowned and scanned the road. His flashlight beam cut across asphalt and scrub brush, revealing nothing. Still, the smell lingered, thickening as if drifting closer. Then he saw movement. Not fast. Careful. A shape emerged at the edge of the light. She stood just outside the circle, where shadow met glow, as if she had stepped into position and stopped there deliberately. An old woman. Small, thin, wrapped in a faded coat that hung too loosely from her shoulders. Her hair was long and gray, falling in uneven clumps down her back. She leaned forward slightly, hands clasped in front of her. Ethan hadn't heard her approach. That bothered him more than it should have. He cleared his throat. "Ma'am, are you okay?" She stepped forward. The bulb flickered as she entered the light. Her face was deeply lined, skin sagging around her eyes and mouth in a way that felt exaggerated, almost sculpted. Her eyes were wide, unblinking, catching the light in a way that reminded Ethan of animals on the roadside at night. Her shoes were gone, bare feet pressed into the gravel, toes spread unnaturally wide. "I smelled food," she said. Her voice was thin, uneven, as if unused. Ethan nodded slowly. "I've got burgers, soup. It's late, but..." She tilted her head. The movement was abrupt, wrong. Late is when people are alone. The words themselves didn't matter. The way her mouth shaped them did. She stepped closer, stopping inches from the service window. The smell intensified. Wet fur, iron. Ethan's stomach tightened. He noticed her hands resting on the counter. The fingers were long, too long, and the nails were thick, yellowed, curving inward. The skin on her knuckles looked stretched thin, almost translucent. Something shifted beneath it. Slow, deliberate. Ethan leaned back without realizing he'd moved. "You traveling?" he asked, forcing calm. The woman smiled. The skin around her mouth pulled too far, cracking at the corners. For a moment, Ethan thought he saw muscle ripple beneath her cheek, as if something inside was adjusting his position. "I walk," she said. "I remember when walking was easy." Her shadow stretched across the ground behind her. It didn't match her shape. It was taller, wider. The head wasn't bowed. It stood upright, watching. The generator coughed, lights dimming briefly. When they steadied, the woman had changed. Not dramatically, not all at once, just enough. She stood straighter now, taller, her shoulders no longer slumped. The coat hung tighter across her back, pulling at seams. She inhaled deeply. Not air. Scent. Her chest expanded too far, ribs pressing outward beneath fabric that had not been made for that shape. "I know you," she said. Ethan shook his head. "You don't." Her eyes flicked over his face, his hands, his throat. "I know how you sound when you're scared." The words landed wrong, not threatening, certain. Ethan's hand slid under the counter, fingers wrapping around the tire iron he kept taped there. He saw her feet then. The toes had lengthened, joints bent backwards slightly, nails thickened, digging into gravel like hooks. The smell became unbearable. The bulb flickered again. This time, when it returned, her eyes reflected yellow. Ethan swung the tire iron. It struck her shoulder with a dull, sickening resistance. Not bone, not flesh, but something in between. Something that shifted under impact. She screamed. The sound shattered the night. It wasn't one voice. It was layered, high and low overlapping, vibrating with something animal and something almost human struggling to escape. The generator stalled. Darkness swallowed everything. In the black, Ethan heard it. Skin tearing. Bones realigning. Breath deepening. Something standing up. When the light came back on, the woman was gone. In her place stood something wearing the remains of her. Limbs stretched too long, joints reversed in bent at angles no human body could survive. The coat and clothes hung in shreds around a torso that had expanded outward, spine arched unnaturally. The head had pushed forward, jaw extended, teeth fully exposed now. Rows of them, too many, too even. But the eyes still knew him, still recognized him. The shadow behind it matched perfectly now, and it filled the ground. Ethan dropped the tire iron and ran. He didn't grab his phone, didn't shut off the gas, didn't look back. His boots slammed against pavement as he sprinted down the highway, flashlight bouncing wildly. The night swallowed his breath, his panic, his prayers. Something moved beside him in the brush. Fast, effortless. He could hear its breathing, deep, controlled, right behind his ear. Not chasing, pacing, letting him waste energy. Ethan veered off the road toward a cluster of abandoned service buildings he remembered from daylight. His lungs burned, his legs screamed. A shape crossed the road ahead of him. Too tall, too smooth. He stumbled into a shallow ditch, scraping hands and knees, scrambling back up just as something landed where he'd been seconds earlier. He ran again. He reached the buildings as the sky began to pale. Concrete walls, rusted doors, human shapes. The thing stopped at the edge of the lot. It didn't follow. It stood there, silhouette against the thinning dark, head tilted, studying him, learning. Then it stepped back into shadow. Gone. Ethan collapsed near a gas station miles away when the sun finally rose. He couldn't explain what had happened. The words didn't fit the memory. Police found the food truck later that morning. Everything intact. Food still warm. No signs of struggle. Only deep claw marks carved into the metal around the service window. Too large. Too precise. Ethan never works nights again. But sometimes, when he's alone and the air goes still, he smells it. Wet fur, iron, and somewhere far from highways and lights, something practices standing upright, learning how to wear a curtain. I don't know if this belongs here, but I need it written down somewhere public in case I stop being able to explain it. I'm a hitchhiker. I've been on the road for most of this year. Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee. I stick to back roads, small towns, places where people still pull over if they see someone walking with a pack and a thumb out. You learn things doing this. You learn who looks at you like a person. You learn who looks through you. I always trusted my instincts. Last night I ignored them. I was walking along Route 119 after sunset. Long stretch of road, no houses, just trees climbing up into the mountains. I'd already accepted I was probably sleeping in the woods when a pickup slowed beside me. Old truck, dark green, no front plate. The driver leaned over and asked, "You headed north?" Normal voice, friendly. Local. I nodded. He told me to hop in. The second I opened the door, I felt wrong about it. Not fear, something quieter. Like stepping into a room and forgetting why you came in. I got in anyway. That was my first mistake. The truck smelled like wet leaves and metal. Not blood, before anyone jumps there, but like rain that never dried. The driver said his name was Mark. He never asked mine. We drove into silence for a while. No radio, no wind noise. It was like the sound faded once we passed the tree line. Eventually he said, "You shouldn't walk these roads after dark." I told him I'd been doing it a long time. He nodded and said, "Yeah, I know." I laughed. Then he added, "You don't." Something in the way he said it shut me up. The road narrowed. Trees leaned closer. Headlights didn't reach as far as they should have. He asked where I was from. I said Ohio. He said no, before that. I named another place, then another. He shook his head. "Before you learned how to leave." That's when I looked at him properly. His face looked almost right. Almost. His eyes were a little too far apart, like someone copied a face from memory and didn't quite get the spacing correct. I told myself it was just the dark. We passed a wooden sign on the roadside. No words, just 3 deep scratches cut into it. Mark slowed down and said, "That's where folks usually turn back." I asked why. "Because they remember something they forgot." He started humming after that. Not a tune, just a sound like someone trying to remember how music works. Then he said, "You ever notice how easy it is to be someone else?" My phone buzzed. Low battery warning. I started typing notes. I didn't want to forget the order of things. We stopped at a pull-off swallowed by trees. No intersection. No reason. "You can get out here," he said. I told him I'd stay in the truck. He smiled and said, "I didn't ask." The passenger door unlocked by itself. When I stepped out, the air felt heavy, like breathing through cloth. The forest was wrong. No undergrowth. Just bare dirt and roots twisting like veins. Mark stepped out of the truck, but he didn't stand up correctly. His spine bent too far back. His shoulders rolled like he was figuring out where they belonged. "You walk too loud," he said. I asked him what he was. He thought about it. "I'm what happens when people travel through places they don't listen to." That's when the others stepped into the headlights. They looked like people I'd met on the road. A woman who once gave me soup. A guy I shared a tent with. A kid who disappeared outside a gas station months ago. They were smiling. All of them. All of them slightly wrong. They moved when Mark moved, like reflections trying to catch up. "You leave pieces behind," Mark said. "We collect them." Up close, his face was worse. The skin stretched in places it shouldn't, like it was pulled over the wrong structure. "You're already halfway hollow," he whispered. I ran. I don't remember getting back into the truck. I don't remember turning the key. I just remember the engine starting and Mark standing in the road, watching me leave. He was smiling with my mouth. In the rearview mirror, my reflection lagged a second behind. I drove until the road lights came back. I pulled into a rest stop with cameras, cars, people. I thought I was safe. Then I saw someone walking between the parked vehicles. Hitchhiking. Wearing my jacket. Walking like they'd been doing it forever. I'm posting this from a motel now. I locked the door. I pushed furniture against it. I don't know if that matters. Here's the part I don't know how to explain. I keep getting notifications on this post from accounts I don't recognize. People using my name, spelling it the way my mother does, asking why I'm lying. I can hear someone pacing outside my room. They don't knock. They don't rush. I think they're waiting for me to stop being careful. If you see someone who looks like me asking for a ride tonight, if you get a message from me that doesn't sound right, If you hear my voice calling your name from somewhere it shouldn't be, don't answer. They don't chase you. They replace you. And they start with people no one will notice going missing. If this post stops updating, please don't look for me in the mountains. Something already came back wearing my face. People who've never been to the Appalachians think of them as gentle mountains. Old, round-backed, softened by time. That's a lie told by postcards and tourist trails. The truth is the mountains are old in the way bones are old. And they do not forget who has walked on them. Deputy Eli Mercer grew up hearing that, though he never truly believed it until the night he followed his own voice into the woods. The call came in just after dusk. Missing person, male, local, name, Caleb Henson. Eli didn't need directions. Everyone knew where Caleb lived, alone up near Black Hollow Ridge, where the forest thickened and the road stopped pretending to be a road. You want backup? The dispatcher asked. Eli looked at the darkening mountains through the station window. No, he said. I'll handle it. That was his first mistake. Black Hollow Ridge wasn't marked on official maps. It didn't need to be. Locals knew where it began the way animals know where not to drink. Caleb Henson's truck sat crooked near the tree line, driver's door open, keys still in the ignition. The engine was cold. Eli stepped out, boots crunching on gravel, hand resting on his holster out of habit. Caleb, he called. The woods swallowed the sound. The air felt wrong, too still. Even the insects had gone quiet. Eli followed a faint trail of disturbed leaves into the trees. Not footprints, more like something had been dragged, then decided to walk upright. Caleb, he called again louder. Something answered. Eli! His stomach dropped. It was his voice. Same tone, same cadence. Even the slight Appalachian lilt he'd picked up from his grandmother. The sound came from deeper in the woods. Eli didn't answer. The voice tried again, closer. Eli, help me. Against every instinct he'd learned as a deputy, Eli took a step forward. Then another. He found Caleb near a dry creek bed, or what was left of him. The body was twisted in a way no fall could explain. Limbs bent wrong, face stretched, like the skin didn't quite fit the bone beneath it. Eyes wide open, mouth frozen, mid-word. Eli knelt, fighting the urge to gag. There were no tracks around the body. None leaving, none arriving. Just disturbed leaves in a rough circle, as if something had paced while deciding what to do next. Eli radioed it in, voice steady by force alone. As he stood, a sound drifted through the trees. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. And then, found him yet? Eli turned. A man stood between the trees. It was Caleb. Alive, whole, smiling faintly. Eli's hand flew to his gun. That's not possible, he whispered. Caleb tilted his head. Why not? Eli glanced back at the body. When he looked again, the body was gone. Eli stumbled back to his truck and drove until the road smoothed out and the radio crackled back to life. He didn't stop shaking until the station lights came into view. Sheriff Martha Gibbons listened without interrupting as Eli told his story. When he finished, she leaned back in her chair and exhaled slowly. You saw a mimic, she said. Eli blinked. A what? She stood and locked the office door. Some folks call them skinwalkers, she said carefully. Others call them haints, shape stealers. Name doesn't matter. That's not, Eli stopped. That's not real. Martha met his eyes. Neither is half the stuff we don't talk about. She pulled out an old ledger from her desk drawer. Its pages were yellowed, handwriting cramped. Black Hollow's been feeding these mountains longer than any of us have been alive, she said. Every few decades, something starts walking around wearing faces. Eli swallowed. And you didn't tell me? You grew up here, she replied softly. I hoped you'd never have to know. They went back together at dawn. The truck was still there. No body, no blood, no disturbed leaves. Just a single footprint in the mud near the creek. Barefoot. Too long. Too many joints. Martha crouched beside it, jaw tight. "It's learning fast," she said. "Learning what?" "How to be believed." By the end of the week, 3 more people went missing. 2 came back. Different. Misses. Larkin down by the river smiled too wide and forgot the names of her grandchildren. Jonah Price started answering questions before they were asked, and sometimes before people spoke at all. Eli noticed something else. They all avoided mirrors. At night, Eli dreamed of standing on his childhood porch while something in the yard practiced walking like him. Practiced breathing. Practiced the weight of his name. He woke each time to his phone buzzing. Messages from numbers not saved. "You awake? Come help me. You promised." Eli's grandmother, May Mercer, had lived on the mountain her entire life. If anyone knew what was happening, it would be her. May listened as Eli spoke, rocking slowly in her chair. When he finished, she nodded. "It's been hungry a long time," she said. "What is it?" Eli asked. May stared out the window at the tree line. "It's what happens when the mountains notice us noticing them." She stood and retrieved a small tin from a cabinet. Inside were bits of salt, dried herbs, and a folded scrap of paper. "You don't whistle in the woods at night," she said. "You don't answer your name unless you're sure who's calling." Eli frowned. "That's superstition." May smiled sadly. "So is believing you're the only thing that knows how to be you." The thing began using Eli's face. The first time he saw it was in a store window. His reflection smiled. He did not. That night the calls stopped. Because it didn't need to call anymore. People started waving at Eli when he wasn't there, saying they'd already spoken to him. Sheriff Martha stopped answering his questions directly. "You seem tired lately," she said one morning. "You already asked me that." "I didn't," Eli said. She looked confused. Concerned. Then relieved. Eli followed it into the woods the next time he saw it. It didn't run. It didn't need to. It led him to a clearing high on Black Hollow Ridge, where the trees grew thin and the ground dipped unnaturally. Bones lay half buried in the soil. Animal, human, old. The thing stood at the center, wearing Eli's body like it had always belonged there. "You take too long to decide things," it said in Eli's voice. "I don't." "What do you want?" Eli demanded. The thing tilted its head. To stay. The skin rippled slightly at the neck, like it hadn't quite settled yet. "You all leave pieces of yourselves behind," it continued. "Regret, silence, names you didn't answer. I just gather them." Eli felt something pull at his chest. "You're already lighter," the thing said gently. The gunshot echoed uselessly. The bullet passed through the thing like mist and struck a tree behind it. The thing sighed. "Still learning," it said. The forest shifted. Suddenly, Eli wasn't alone. Figures stepped from between the trees. People he recognized. People long dead, or almost dead. All wearing familiar faces. All wrong in subtle ways. The mountain had been practicing for generations. Eli woke up at dawn on his grandmother's porch. May sat beside him. "You almost stayed," she said quietly. "What stopped it?" Eli croaked. May handed him the tin. "You remembered yourself." Down the mountain, sirens wailed. Someone else had gone missing. They sealed off Black Hollow Ridge. Officially, it was unsafe terrain. Unofficially, everyone knew better than to go near it after dark. Most of the replacements faded. One stayed. It wears a deputy's uniform now. Answers calls. Smiles at the right times. And every once in a while, when Eli catches his reflection in a dark window, the reflection blinks late. If you ever find yourself in the Appalachians and hear someone calling your name from the woods, Don't answer, even if it sounds exactly like you, especially then, because the mountains are patient and they're very good at learning how to walk like us.